Welcome back to part 2 of ranking every superhero suit ever made. If you haven't seen part 1, I'm sure there's something somewhere that you can click on. Also, to be honest with you guys, I had full intentions to put my Deadpool costume back on for the second part, but I just could not bring myself to put that thing on. It takes so long. So, ironically, for the best suits, I am wearing my worst superhero suit. I'm not going to go over any of the rules or anything like that. If you're watching this video, you hopefully watched the first one, but on the off chance that you're just skipping to this one because you only want to see the best ones, you can watch the start of that other video to see how I rank these and how I judge the criteria here. Also, one thing I want to point out is there's a lot of these suits. I wouldn't get hung up on the exact specifics of the numbering, just kind of the general placement and what I say about it, more so than like, oh, you really think this is better than this one? There's a lot of suits. If I did this list again, it would probably have a completely different ranking, but everything would be sort of in the same spot. Also, it wasn't like every suit in the last video is bad and every suit in this video is good. There's a lot of mid stuff right in the middle that is in both videos. But otherwise, we still have 70 suits to get through, so I'm just going to jump right into it. All right, number 70. I think the Captain America suit in this is pretty solid. It looks very of its time, very World War II. It doesn't look modern, and I think that makes it stand out from the other MCU suits. Number 69, we have the Negasonic Teenage Warhead suit. I just think that this is a pretty solid adaptation of kind of a generic X-Men suit, for someone who doesn't have a distinct costume. Just, generic X-Men. They looks pretty good. Number 68, speaking of solid interpretation of a uniform, I think they basically nailed this, but let's not kid ourselves. I don't think this was that hard to do. Number 67, so this is a really weird period for Superman suits. It's after the bright and colorful movies with Christopher Reeve, but it's before the dark and gritty stuff with Zack Snyder, and so we have this weird middle ground design that I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, I do like it overall. I think it's a solid Superman suit. Like, they're trying to remind general audiences of the Christopher Reeve suit, but they're not confident enough to fully embrace what makes that suit special. The colors are a lot more washed out. The logo isn't as big. As a result, this suit kind of looks like if you wanted to print a picture of the Christopher Reeve Superman suit, but your printer was running low on ink. That's kind of what this suit looks like to me. Number 66. I know a lot of people hated on the Green Lantern suit at the time, but I honestly don't think that it's that bad. Like, doing a all CGI skin-tight suit is really hard to do today, so the fact that they even tried to do it in 2011 is impressive, and I think it could have been a lot worse. Number 65. While the Christopher Nolan suit isn't exactly the definitive suit I think of when I think of Batman, like I said with X-Men, I respect a strong artistic direction, even if it's not exactly what I want out of the character. And I have to give the Nolan suit props for being iconic in its own right. I really do like it if I think of it as its own thing and not just as a Batman suit. Number 64. You probably could have guessed at this point about me that I am a Superman Trunks defender, and I am not a big fan when they try to cheat this by just putting a red belt and pretending like we won't notice. I see what you're doing. Stop it. Number 63. In terms of adapting from the comics, I think they nailed this. I'm just not that big of a fan of this suit from the comics, so it looks good, but it's just not for me. Please don't yell at me. Number 62. I think this is a pretty fun Iron Man suit for one movie, but generally I think less is more with the gold. I think it works to highlight the red and less of a 50-50. Number 61. I think Rocket is probably the most impressive looking CGI character in all of the MCU, and I think that this suit's pretty cool. Number 60. If you made the Snyder Superman suit brighter and gave it trunks, I think we would have an all-timer here, but obviously that wouldn't fit with the dark tone that Snyder was going for, which begs the question, why make a Superman movie at all at that point? But that's not the point of this video. Number 59. Honestly, man, just props for even attempting this suit. I can't imagine this was easy to adapt, especially the mask with the mouth. But honestly, I think they really pulled it off. They did a good job. Number 58. This is definitely the best suits that we've gotten for the X-Men so far. I think they did a great job adapting the first-class suits, and I like how they gave each one a little personalized twist to work with the powers of the individual mutant. And these suits from the comics don't seem easy to adapt. So again, great job here. Number 57. Dude, Cavill's Superman wishes it had this much sauce. I love the brighter colors here, and while I do feel like it's maybe a little bit too much blue, I respect the vision, even if it does kind of look like she's wearing footy pajamas. I mean, come on, spot the difference. Number 56. I think if you're going to make a color that isn't red more prominent on an Iron Man suit, I think silver just works better than gold. Plus, I love how this suit comes out of a suitcase. I don't really know if that's like a criteria that I'm taking into account here when talking about the design, but this shit's so much cooler than nanotech. Number 55. I think they did a really good job making the suit still feel like Black Panther, but not just a gender swap T'Challa. Number 54. While I do definitely prefer when they used practical effects to do Beast, I can't deny that I really enjoy that they went with the original cartoon design here. Number 53. I really like this design for Wanda, and I think it works in Multiverse of Madness, where she's almost just a horror villain. Number 52. I think this is a fun look, and it fits the tone of Thor Ragnarok, but I wouldn't really want it to stick around beyond this movie. Number 51. Oh man, Endgame Cap has so much sauce, dude. The beard, the rolled up sleeves. This is like the Winter Soldier suit cranked up to 11. Number 50. Okay, hear me out before you just start saying that I'm horny for putting this one so high. I think Wanda's costume translates a lot better to this style of costume than Vision's does. And while I don't think that this exact costume could work in the MCU, I do think that they could take a lot of elements from this design and make it into something that works a lot more in these movies. I love the bright red. I love the big crown. Also, I do want to briefly talk about how female costumes have been handled throughout the history of superhero movies, because I've noticed a shift. Back in like the early mid-2000s, a lot of the women in superhero movies were unnecessarily sexualized, and honestly, it's kind of uncomfortable to watch at times. But I think in order to get past that, Marvel especially has really overcorrected on some of these. And I'm not saying these women need to be scantily clad in order to watch it, but I think that in order to make these seem less suggestive, a lot of the personality has been taken out of these costumes. If you compare how She-Hulk looks in the show, it looks pretty good, but if you compare it to the comics, there's so much more personality here. And I'm not saying I need her ass cheeks to be hanging out, but I do think that a lot of personality is being lost here. We can still have modesty and personality. These things aren't mutually exclusive. Also, yeah, she looks hot. Number 49. I think this homemade suit is the strongest out of all of them. The others struggled to keep the essence of Spider-Man while still keeping that low budget charm, and I think this one really just nailed it. Number 48. I think that this is a really solid Mighty Thor costume, and I really like the helmet when it isn't the worst CGI that you've ever seen in your entire life. Number 47. I think Strange translated really well to the MCU. This is not an easy costume to adapt, and I think they nailed it. And you know they agree because his costume has basically not changed at all since he first appeared. Also, I really liked when he had gloves in Ragnarok. I wouldn't mind seeing those come back. Number 46. I like the Kilmer suit. I wish the colors on the symbol popped a bit more, and I don't know how I feel about these super detailed muscle sculpts, but otherwise I think it looks good. Number 45. I thought Iron Patriot was so cool as a kid, but as an adult, I've learned to appreciate War Machine a lot more. I don't really have too much to say about this guy. He's Iron Man but blue. Number 44. I think the Mark I suit would be something that would be incredibly hard to translate to live action, and I think they nailed it. No notes here. Number 43. I think when people say Captain America in the MCU, this is probably the suit that people think of, or one that looks very similar to it at least. And yeah, I think that they did a really good job here. They really nailed the balance of the military aesthetic and the comic book fun. Number 42. Do people like the original Ant-Man suit? I think it looks really good. It adds detail to the suit in unique ways that I think work better than other over-designed MCU suits. Like, I really like the sort of metal piping that goes around the trim here, and I think the helmet looks great. Number 41. Baby Groot is very cute, and I'm sure Disney made $1 billion in merchandising, so that's nice for them. Number 40. All of my nitpicks about the Snyder suit fade away when you have him in the black suit, to the point where I'm convinced the only reason Snyder agreed to even make a Superman movie was so that he could eventually put him in this suit. If I had to nitpick, I guess my only complaint would be that I wish that there was a bit more silver, but otherwise I think this looks basically perfect. Number 39. At this point we're pretty deep into the good costumes, so I don't have too much to say about Psylocke other than I like it. Looks good. Number 38. I think that the first Thor costume really nails the look, and I appreciate that they at least tried the helmet, even if they didn't really stick with it too much. Number 37. Speaking of Thor, dude, this costume is so badass. This cape is so cool with the fucking fur going on. Oh my god, it's awesome. I do not understand why they didn't make this the main costume in Thor Love and Thunder. My only critique is I wish it had some of those silver circles on his chest like the other costumes have. Number 36. I really like this Hawkman costume. It looks super unique, and we have a lot of winged characters on this list, and these wings manage to stand out. Number 35. I don't really have anything negative to say about these Fantastic Four suits. Maybe just have the 4 in the center instead of to the side. That's a little weird. But otherwise, these look really good. The only thing that I would say is that the Thing was definitely limited to the prosthetic technology at the time. You can tell that his facial expressions are limited. I think my ideal thing in the future movies would be prosthetics with a CGI enhanced face so that we could really get the full range of emotions. Number 34. Hopefully this redeems me a bit in the eyes of the Daredevil fans because I think this suit fucks. This is by far the highest ranked homemade suit in any superhero movie because it just has this fucking aura to it. And it also totally makes sense in the context of the show that this is something that Matt would wear. I'm serious when I say I wish that his actual suit was basically just this, but red and with the mask. 33. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I think that this is peak Cap. I just think he looks so heroic in this outfit. Like, I just look at this picture and I'm like, yeah, this guy leads the Avengers. Maybe that's because he only wore it in the Avengers. Moving on. Number 32. I think Groot peaked in his first appearance. He strikes the perfect balance between strong and powerful and cute. Both future iterations go too far in either of those directions. Number 31. While I do think almost every strength that comes from this costume came from the original Burton suit, and every change that this suit makes it worse, it is still a pretty good bat suit. The logo is basically perfect, and while I do think the cowl looks a little weird and the armor style on the chest is maybe not my favorite, it does a lot right. Number 30. The OG Burton suit is so iconic, and the only reason that it's not higher is because it really only looks good when it's staged and lit properly. The second this dude is just in a normal conversation, it looks ridiculous. But considering this was the first movie to try to do something like this, I have to give it credit. Number 29. Yeah, I mean, this is Supergirl. They took the costume from the comics and then they just did it exactly, and I think it looks really good. I don't have anything else to say here. Number 28. I think Supergirl and Superman look about the same in quality, and maybe this is unfair, but I'm giving Superman the edge because Christopher Reeve looks more like Superman than Superman does. This costume's design is basically perfect, and the only reason that it's not any higher is because material in superhero costumes have come a long way, and this kind of looks like a Halloween costume compared to other superhero suits. Number 27. Maybe it's unfair for me to put Mr. Knight so high up on this list because it's just a white suit and a mask. But what can I say, man? They nailed it. It looks great, and it's super slick. Number 26. The Blade costume is what the Punisher costumes wish they were. Number 25. The Channing Tatum Gambit costume is really interesting because the whole joke of the movie relies on this being immediately recognizable as Gambit and Channing Tatum, so they couldn't really stray too far from Gambit's most iconic design. And honestly, I think they do a pretty good job. Maybe it would have been nice to see Gambit with his correctly colored eyes, but really my biggest complaint here is I think that Tatum is just too buff, and so I think the mask looks a little silly on him. Number 24. I really like this Spider-Man suit. I think that the black is a fun idea, and I really like the fingerless gloves thing that they got going on. I tend to prefer the standard blue and red, but I do not mind this look at all. Number 23. I don't really know what to say about the Winter Soldier costume other than it's badass and it looks great. The arm is super cool. I'm not going to pretend like this is the hardest costume in the world to adapt, but they did a great job. Number 22. Okay, I'm breaking my one rule and I'm putting a suit in here from a movie that hasn't come out yet. In fact, at the time of recording this, we haven't even gotten a trailer. We've only gotten one official photo and then set leaks. So my ranking of this will probably change once the movie comes out, but I just have to talk about this suit. So here's what I love. I love the fit. It reminds me of the Reeves suit where it doesn't contour to his muscles. It's a bit baggier and looser because I feel like Superman is not the type of character where he really needs to show off his muscle definition. It gives him a much friendlier and less intimidating look. I also love the trunks and the belt. I think they nailed it. I think this is the best looking trunks and belt that we have seen in a Superman adaptation. The cape also looks great and it has the logo on the back, which I love. I like the logo, it's the right size, and I like the colors, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't wish they did something a lot closer to the original S design. And yes, there's a bunch of random lines, but I don't despise them. Do I wish they weren't there? yeah, I guess, but they're not nearly as bad as a lot of other suits. But my biggest problem with this suit is the collar. I'm just not a fan of Superman with a collar. And I understand why they did it to differentiate itself from the Cavill suit, but I really hope that down the road we get a more classic looking Superman suit once this one has been established for a while. Number 21. Maybe this is a hot take, but I think the Black Panther suit peaked in Civil War. This shit looks so raw! Like, watch him take off his mask. Ooh! That shit's so much cooler than nanotech. Number 20. You might think that the Moon Knight costume is over-designed, but I kind of like the wrapping aesthetic. It's unique, and I think it's much better than just a bunch of random lines everywhere. It may not be the best possible way to adapt this suit into live action, but I think it's pretty close. Number 19. War Machine looks badass. I don't really have much to say about this. It's an Iron Man suit in black with guns on it. Shit is sick as fuck. Number 18. I think Colossus is basically perfect. Maybe I would have liked to have seen him in the red and yellow at least once in one of these movies, but otherwise no complaints here. Number 17. I'm lumping all the Hulks together because honestly they all look about the same. The only difference is that they look a little better as technology has improved. Also, I think it's crazy that the MCU hasn't given Hulk his purple pants once. Not that I necessarily think he needs them, but he's a giant green monster. Do we really think giving him purple pants is too unrealistic? Number 16, the armored Batsuit from Batman v Superman looks awesome. Looks like it jumped right out of the comics. I have no complaints here. Number 15, yeah, they nailed Ghost Rider, but it's a flaming skull in a leather jacket. Let's not pretend like this was rocket science. Also, I feel like it's crazy that we haven't seen this character since the Nick Cage movies. Like, we're getting Harry Styles as whoever the fuck this is before we get Ghost Rider. Also, I didn't rank him, by the way, because he's in the movie for 2 seconds, and I have no idea who this is, and he just kind of looks like Shazam to me. Speaking of Shazam, number 14. People might not like that I put Shazam so high, especially considering I put the other one so low, and they do technically look very similar. But man, I just love this costume. Like, this suit is insane. It should be impossible to pull off in live action, and I think they did a really good job. I love how the cape looks, and it's sort of short. It's not long like Superman or Batman's. I love the big glowing lightning bolt on the chest. The big fake muscles, I think, add a lot of charm. It feels very artificial, which makes sense in the context of the movie. Like, maybe they could have shrunk them a little bit, which I do think they did in the second one, and I think maybe it looks a little better. But otherwise, I think that this suit is flawless, which is crazy to say for such a insane design. Number 13. Brandon Routh somehow has the worst Superman suit on this list to the best. And I think it's close to perfect. Honestly, my only complaints come down to personal preference and not loving this logo or the black over the yellow. But if that's your thing, then this suit is flawless. I have nothing to say about it that's negative at all. These are the perfect shades of red and blue. The belt and the trunks look great. The cape, everything, the hair, all of it, fantastic. Number 12. Okay, the 3 Spider-Man suits are so close in quality to me that if you ask me on a different day, I think I might change my mind. But right now, I think I'm putting Garfield at the bottom. And I think this costume is amazing. I love the big eyes, and the material is perfect. I just think that the colors are too dark, and the logo is so long, and it's just too damn low. Spider-Man's logo should not be tickling his belly button. Number 11. Okay, I might get hate for not putting this one higher, but it's basically top 10. The Raimi suit is kind of like the Keaton suit, where it has just become iconic in its own right. And I think all the choices that they do here work really well. I liked the raised webbing. The eyes are great. The logo is iconic. My only issue with this costume, and maybe this is Tobey's performance, but sometimes when he's talking to people, he looks so stiff and lifeless when he moves around.
I'm going. I'll be here when you get back. Not coming back, Chief. Go! Go!
It looks like it's a mannequin in a Spider-Man costume, and that's not including the time where it literally is a mannequin in the Spider-Man costume. Number 10. If I had to guess what suit placement is going to piss the most people off, I would say it's this one. But here's the thing, guys. There's almost 150 of these, and all 3 are right next to each other. I love all of these suits for different reasons. The reason this one's the highest to me is I think that they just nailed the colors. Also, the mask looks amazing. The lenses being expressive, I think adds so much to Spider-Man. Yes, it has some unnecessary lines, and yes, the front logo is a little weak. And yes, the black doesn't need to be there. But I think this is still the strongest suit. These issues don't outweigh the issues that the other suits have to me. Alright, those spider suits basically tied for top 10, so now we're getting into the legendary shit here with number 9. And I think Pattinson's Batsuit is legendary. I love the unique look of the cowl with the little collar. I love the symbol, the flowing cape. It's perfect for this movie. I don't necessarily think it's the definitive Batsuit, but it works really well for this specific story. And I do kind of hope we get a more refined suit in the sequels. But in the context of the film, I have no complaints. Number 8, Raimi fans, I hope this makes you feel better because I think this suit is so fucking cool. And yeah, maybe it's because I was the perfect age when this movie came out, that it imprinted on my brain. And you could argue that it's kind of lazy to just take the exact suit from the other movies and just make it completely black. But like I said before, the Raimi suit is so iconic that I don't think there was any other way you could have done this. While I do think that there is a place in future movies for a more comic accurate symbiote suit, I can't deny the pure sauce dripping from this suit. Number 7. Okay, so this suit is complicated, and I know some people love it and some people hate it. But to me, there's 3 versions of this suit. Version 1 is what we're looking at here, where he has no mask and he has the sleeves. And honestly, this version would go much lower on the list. But once he loses those sleeves, it goes up a couple notches. And then, finally, at the fucking end of the movie, when he puts the mask on, that's when it shoots up to top 10 material. And maybe this is recency bias because the movie just came out, and in a few years I'll want to put it a lot lower because there are problems with it. Like, why the fuck is the guy with a healing factor wearing armor? But I can't deny how excited I got in the theater seeing him finally put that cowl on. And this is also an insane costume to adapt, and I think they did an amazing job. Number 6. I think this is about as good as a Batsuit can look. And while I do think there is room for other Batsuits in the future, like I'm hoping the DCU maybe goes with a blue and gray color scheme, I really don't know how you could have made this costume look any better. I love how they finally figured out how to give Batman a thick neck while also allowing the actor to move his neck around. Oh, it looks so good. Number 5. Alright, we have been talking about some great suits, but now we are at the suits that are so good that I don't know how you even adapt these costumes again in the future if and when these characters get rebooted. And at number 5, we have Wonder Woman. Movie quality aside, I think Wonder Woman 84 has the best version of this costume, even though they're all incredibly high. And I really don't have much to say here. I think it's perfect. The tiara, the boots, the skirt, the colors. It has an armored look that I think makes sense for a warrior, but still keeps the iconic aspects of the costume from the comics. This could not have been an easy suit to adapt, and I think it's perfect. Number 4. Another DCEU costume. And I do not think you can get better than this Aquaman costume. Adapting this bright orange and green suit, it was another impossible task. I love the scale texture, the gloves, the trident. I think the only thing the DCU can do to make their Aquaman stand out from this one is cast a blonde dude like fucking Owen Wilson or something to play him and just stick him in this same suit and hope no one notices. Number 3, Deadpool. Ha! I bet you thought I was going to put him at number 1, but I didn't. But to be honest, these final 3 are so close in quality that ask me on a different day, and this may as well be considered number 1 part 3. And I think that the suit from the first 2 movies are basically tied with this new one. I'm not a fan of the gold trim and some of the other changes that they made to it, like this little black thing right here, but the bright red really carries it. And it's crazy how far we've come from one of the worst superhero costumes ever made to one of the most comic accurate we've ever seen on screen. I think that there's an argument to be made that the original X-Men movies are the movies that taught studio executives that audiences want cool and realistic costumes. And I think this is the movie that showed you can go all in on comic accuracy and audiences will respond positively to it. It also started that trend of the expressive eyes on superhero suits that we've just seen a bunch since then. It's amazing. It's a 10 out of 10. Number 2, we have the final swing suit from Spider-Man No Way Home. This is everything I want out of a Spider-Man suit. Literally everything. Everything I said I liked about the Stark suit is here, and every issue I had with it is gone. And the shiny blue just looks so damn good. It makes him stand out so much. If this had its own movie, I would probably put it as number 1, but I can't, considering it's only in the movie for a little bit. Because I bet you money Marvel fucks it up in the next one. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. Number 1. We have, drum roll please. Yeah, I think it's only fair to give the number 1 spot to Iron Man. There are a lot of influential suits on this list, but in a lot of ways, this suit specifically is what got us to where we are today, for better or for worse, depending on your thoughts on the MCU. But this came out the same year as The Dark Knight, the movie that constantly tried to distract you from the fact that it was a comic book movie. That movie, while amazing, is very much a this ain't your dad's Batman. But Iron Man showed that you can embrace what makes comics cool while still telling stories that adults will love. And I think the suit embodies that. And for that reason, I think it deserves number 1. Oh my god, we fucking did it. We got through all the costumes. Wait, doesn't Captain Marvel wear a green costume? Fuck! Okay, we basically got through all the costumes. Maybe I'll do the villains at some point so we can talk about things like Harley Quinn, Peacemaker, stuff like that. But for now, we did it. Thank you for watching. Quick reminder again that if you like superheroes, I have an Etsy sticker shop. Like and subscribe if you don't absolutely hate my guts after watching this, and I'll see you guys next time.